Our guest today holds a law degree from Loyola University and a bachelor's degree in history and general social studies from Providence College. He and his wife Patty live in Chicago and are the proud parents of 5 children. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Cook County Sheriff Tom Dart. Thomas? All right. Thanks. Have some fun up here.
All right, well, thank you. Thanks so much, Jay. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be back here. I do get a little anxious, though, I'll tell you, when Paul's mentioning your filling out your tickets for a prize of some type. Usually when I'm in a room and there's like surprises, it's usually because we have warrants for everybody and we're arresting them. Surprise! You're all arrested. It is, you know, this job is really quite stressful and frustrating at times. I can truly tell you the most enjoyment I've gotten out of it, as far as just pure fun, has been those stings that we've done over the years. And I'm not going to digress in it because I've got a pretty meaty topic I want to talk about. But those stings, honestly, God, thank God defendants are so stupid. We did one about 1.5 years ago. We did it out at a hotel, and it was so funny. We sent out these fake gift cards where everyone got $500 to go shopping at Christmas time. And, you know, the Grinch, you know, here I am. And so they all show up, and we have all the balloons and guys dressed in leisure suits congratulating them. And they just have to go into a room to fill out a questionnaire about some fake product we made up. And we're all hiding in the closet, and mind you, I have no delusions about my stature. I'm hiding behind the biggest guy in the room. And then, you know, as they're filling out the forms, we then come in and arrest them all. And it was all good fun. And then one of the guys he's being carted away. He's like, Sheriff Dart. And I was like, yeah. He goes, nice to meet you. And I was like, I'd shake your hand, but you're in handcuffs right now. And he goes, I just want to let you know that I was wondering about this one. I was like, really? He goes, yeah, you know, I wasn't sure, but, you know, for $500, I couldn't pass it up. And I was like, well, you know, what can you do? He goes, but I do want to let you know, this was the best one ever. And I was like, walk me through this. And he's like, oh yeah, this is my second one. Thank you. But yeah, as I say, so you have those moments in this job where you have your levity, and thankfully we get that at times, because the job is difficult on many levels, and some of it's because of the issues you're dealing with. And the one that I want to talk about today particularly is really one of those ones that is the most heartbreaking of all, and that we work with, and we've done a lot in this area, and it's in the area of human trafficking. My wife was going to be here today. She couldn't because my 3-year-old was graduating from preschool, or whatever the heck they call it. And I wanted to be there, both of us, but I couldn't obviously be there. But I would love to have been there so I could have talked to her about how she enjoyed school and what she wants to do next year and what her plans are, and we could talk to her about plans. The thing that I find so difficult is the disconnect that people have, though, between little children and what we're talking about here. Each and every one of these women we're talking about, and it's mostly all women folks, were 3-year-olds at one time. They were little girls with dreams. Their parents had dreams. Someone in their family had a dream for them. They wanted to be something. I can guarantee you this much, not one of them wanted to grow up and be a sex slave. Not one of them wanted to go through this horrific life that they're going through. Not one of them. And yet somehow there's been this disconnect that has built up where this is, you know, somehow Pretty Woman, this is somehow a business decision, this insane type of disconnect with what the realities are here. And so it's one of those things where I keep trying to reference people and really trying to reinforce them. You need to personalize these issues and think in terms of these women that we're talking about. They were once someone's little 3-year-old that they had dreams for, and that 3-year-old had dreams, and this is what's become of their life, and it's horrible. It's absolutely disgusting. It's absolutely horrible what has happened here. Our office, you know, like many, many offices around the country, has a lot of budget constraints. And I only mention that because it makes it difficult to sometimes get to these issues as much as you would like to. Our budget just this past year dropped from $485 million down to $404 million. Our number of police officers has dropped from 450 down to 400. Our deputies have dropped from 1,500 to 1,200. And mind you, our deputies dropped from 1,500 to 1,200 while the number of evictions we're required to do is tripled. So we're being pulled in a lot of directions, but in spite of that, this is an issue that we have made a top priority. And a lot of the people that make this happen, it's a very small group of people. A lot of them are here now. Billy Lean, Mike Anton, the people from the Women's Justice. These are individuals who make it happen. They work well beyond the call of duty. You know, overtime issues, 8-hour days don't apply to them. They're passionate about this like I am. Our office, as I said, is a large office. As most of you know, I've walked through this before with a lot of you. We have about 10,500 inmates. We run all the courthouses. But this issue is one that had not gotten as much attention, but it's something that we've put a real strong, fine point on. It's something that we want to make sure is addressed, and people talk about it. One of the difficulties when you talk about this issue, though, is when people talk about trafficking, they think of international trafficking. They think of the movie Taken, they think of the movie Eastern Promises, and they think, wow, you know, this is a big international issue. It is an international issue. If you look at the next slide, I think, guys, we can, you know, I'll just show you this real quick. This is just an idea of an average type of arrangement that goes on in our place as far as when we're working trafficking issues. We have individuals who, in no time at all, I'm going to demonstrate in a second, set up dates with individuals who don't know who's showing up, don't know what their backgrounds are. We come in, the money's exchanged, and in seconds, the deal's consummated, and we have arrests. The international aspect of this is really well described here, where it shows the red highlighted areas where most of the women internationally are coming from. The blue highlighted area is where they're going to. And it's a horrific statement to see the highlighted area, one of the blue highlighted areas is in fact our country. It's embarrassing. The reality of it is though, folks, this is what gets the majority of the attention. The majority of the issue though is domestic trafficking, and people don't appreciate that. And when I talk about domestic trafficking, what I'm talking about is internally within our own city, our own state. We have women that are being moved everywhere, against their will, sometimes not quite against their will, but horrific scenarios. We have here on the map to show you, this is just our trafficking cases. These aren't like prostitution cases. These aren't just cases that we've had some type of interaction with prostitution ring. These are all specific trafficking cases that we've been working on. It is something that is truly right in our backyard. It's something that is not a foreign problem. It's a problem that is huge, and it's local. In Chicago area alone, 20,000 women or girls are in the sex trade. The average starting age of the women in this is the age of 13. The #1 cause of death for the people in this profession is homicide. 55% under the most conservative analysis are beaten. The money that they make, they don't keep any of it. We have been involved with about 18 trafficking cases collectively just in the past year. We have, you know, the numbers I say are staggering. If you look at the numbers just up here about the number of people that have college education as far as the Johns go, the amount of money they make, they're married. But once again, this incredible disconnect about what they're doing here and the victimhood and what they're fostering here. In our office, as I mentioned, ours has been a very fine point we put on this issue because we are really not going to let this thing go. We had the first trafficking arrest ever was ours. First guilty plea on a trafficking case was ours, and this is all in the state of Illinois. First jury trial conviction, first international case, first case in the Northern District of Illinois, the first task force utilizing former prostitutes. And that's something else that we came up with in addition to not treating this as if the prostitutes are all these hardened criminals, but actually in fact victims. We have former prostitutes that we've hired to work with them to get them out of this world and to break the cycle. And we've had tremendous luck to the point now where we have Colorado is going to try to copy everything we're doing and trying to mimic all the different things we've worked on here. We have a network TV now that is also working on following our trafficking unit. Some of the other people now are picking up some of the momentum that we got going. The state's attorney's office has got a trafficking unit they started up. The city of Chicago's police department has charged its first trafficking case recently. And we've got pimping to where it's now a felony. The nature of these cases, though, folks, are not easy. They require long-term investigations because at any moment we don't know. It's not as if it's advertised as trafficking. So it takes a lot of time and energy to do this, and it has been amazing how often, unfortunately, it turns out to be cases where people are trafficked. And we've had just these cases alone from Cook County. These cases alone are ones that we've had recently. And I'm just going to give you just, and this is really not trying to be overly graphic, this is the norm. This is the average here, folks. This Clinton Danner, he's 32 years old in Minnesota. He would drive his wife around the country, or he'd fly her around the country, prostituting her out, while he held their baby and would threaten to kill the baby if she didn't do this. We showed up on an ad. She came clean to us what was going on. We then lied profusely to him, and he then was under the impression she was no longer going to do this. So he had to race up to try to get her and probably beat her to get her to continue to do it. Unfortunately, we were the ones that were waiting for him when he showed up. We were tracking his phone as he came all the way up from Florida, because he was down in Florida with the baby while she was up here. It was one of those cases where, you know, as I say, all this unfortunately has become the norm. And one of the things we've also found out is from the pimp and trafficker standpoint, they encourage the women to become pregnant, because then they have more leverage. Once the baby comes, they can threaten to do all sorts of things to the baby, not just to them too. So it's one of their many ploys they do. Alex Campbell, he was from Glenview, and he was particularly working in trafficking women, a lot of them with international connections, a lot of them from Korea. And he would work to get them into massage parlors, and then he'd sell them for sex, and then he'd be trading them with other pimps when he wanted to. One of his ways he kept track of them was he branded them. He would put his brand on them, which was a tattoo that said cowboy that we'd find on the back of a lot of their necks. He would beat them just horribly on a regular basis to keep everybody in line. We grabbed him, and he's now waiting trial in the federal court. Muriel and Terrell Lockett are 17 years old. They were from Dalton. What they were doing is they were recruiting young girls who were classmates from a south suburban high school. They would entice them with all sorts of different gimmicks to get them in, and once they had their claws in them, they wouldn't let them go. They would then move them around to different hotels. That's how we came across them. We answered an ad, and one of them was out in front with one of a young girl who was beaten really bad, and the whole thing started unwinding then. They were facilitating all this because they would post all their photos and all the rest of their information on the internet for them to try to get the dates for them, and once again keep all the money, and when they got out of line they'd beat them pretty bad. We grabbed them, and they pled guilty to 4 years in prison, where they're at right now. Walter Miller, 39-year-old from Chicago, he befriended and became somewhat of a boyfriend of a girl who recently had come into the country from Ireland. He earned her trust and then started savagely beating her, started selling her for sex. Between that and the embarrassment that she felt for what she was going through, she couldn't get out until we arrested her. We integrated her with our former prostitutes, and we were able to get her away from that. He's awaiting trial now as well. Justin Cephas, he was from Hammond, and he and a group of men he worked with, they had about 30 or 40 different women that they put, I shouldn't say women, they were young girls. They would go to suburban malls, and they would connect with them. They would get to meet them, and after they met them, they would put their claws in by telling them they're going to help promote a modeling career for them, and they become the next music video star. They would beat these girls horribly, just horribly, the beatings, to the point where you couldn't recognize them at times. They would force them to sell themselves for sex. There was about 30 to 40 different women that they were doing this to. Working with the feds, we were able to get charges, convicted, and he is serving a life sentence now in federal prison, so he's never getting out. A couple other ones I just wanted to highlight to you that we didn't throw up there, but just to give you an idea of what's going on here, the level of sophistication. They actually utilize these debit cards now. The whole internet thing, and I'm going to get to that in a second, has made life a little bit trickier for us trying to actually get the traffickers and the pimps. They utilize now, they have the women put the money into cash machines, and they haven't put them onto debit cards and the like, so the actual hand-to-hand money transactions, which used to make things a lot easier, are a lot trickier for us to do now. We've had one that, and once again, the stories are, I could go on for hours with all the different ones we've involved with. We had a woman just this past year, she was 9 months pregnant, and the father of the child was pimping her around. She was from Iowa when we grabbed her. We put her in touch with our former prostitutes, worked with her, and put her on a bus back to Iowa. A lot of these guys try to put their claws into people from small towns that they figure are more vulnerable than others. The final point I want to make as far as specific cases go was we had a case that was out south, not too far from me in the south suburbs, where the girls were 13 and 14, and one was from a local high school from our area, and another one was lived about half a mile from my house. A lot of this is something where there's girls that get caught in, get brought in, and then they're encouraged by the pimps to bring other girls in. And they tell them all sorts of great stories about they'll have all sorts of new money, new dresses, and you can be the next star. And it obviously never turns out that way. The girls that we grabbed that time had been told that they were going to go for some type of photo shoot. One girl was much more sophisticated than the other one. The other one was not. She was just going to be raped, actually, until we got there. The trafficking trends, just areas where we've seen as far as like their MOs, as far as what they're doing. They say it's incredibly sophisticated and horribly frightening. They work girls from specific high schools to try to get them to encourage other girls to come along. We have a case we just finished like a month ago. It was a North Shore high school. And the girl had just turned 18, and she had been brought in by a girl who was a sophomore at the high school into this. And we were able to intervene, thankfully, and sort of break that up and help them get into some type of help. But the actual pimp, the bun, who we really wanted, we weren't able to get to. These pimps work the Facebook, MySpace stuff very effectively, where they get a name of a girl who's working with them, and then they start playing off of her friends list and things like that. We've seen a lot of that. They do a lot of stuff where they encourage women to act, to think that there's some like modeling or entertainment angle that they can get involved with, and it's just as subtle as that, and it is something that is that innocuous, and that's not how it works out. The international part of it has a lot of different variations to it. The one that we had come across recently was 3 women from Thailand. We came across an ad, we came in and grabbed them. It was abundantly clear what was going on. Their passports had been taken by the trafficker. We were unable to get to the trafficker at that instant. The women, apparently their families had some type of debt back in Thailand, and they were shipped over here to work off their debt, and we see this quite frequently as well, but there's never any real end game here. There isn't as if there is a real number. They're here forever, and they can't go anywhere. One of the many difficult things for us at that case was, I remember distinctly, we couldn't get anybody to take these women. We ended up putting them in hotels ourselves for a while because we couldn't get the consulate to take them, because there were so many issues involved with this particular case. And so we were, for lack of a better word, we were stuck with these women for quite some time with nothing we could do with it. We were finally able to get the consulate to take them, but there was a lot of concern on their part of what they were going back to. That if they were not working off their debt, were they or some family members going to be killed as a result of that? And we have no ability to find out what's going on the other end. It's very, very troubling. The next slide is just a brief one I was going to show you is unfortunately all very true. It sort of ties in what we're talking about. This young woman was one we came across in one of our operations, and just like I told you earlier, had been enticed into this whole thing through this thought that she was going to be a model and the rest of it, and it's pretty nasty.
Well, I was victimized by Craigslist. It starts off as a photo shoot, and there's a lot of creeps on Craigslist. They have these ads in different sections, not just the exotic section. You go to gigs and there's like model section. I want to be a model, so I applied for modeling things. You do a photo shoot for them, and then that's not enough. They don't want you to do just photo shoots. They victimize you into doing so much other stuff than just that.
If you met her, you could see this isn't a woman that had any drug issues. This isn't a woman that had any of those issues that sometimes go in this area. It was just very startling for us to see someone like this that so quickly and easily got brought into it. The greatest facilitator we have right now of this is the internet. Craigslist was #1 on my list, but we kept suing them, and thanks to our friends here at Query, who represented us pro bono, we brought a lawsuit against them. They fought us tooth and nail. It was so outrageous, folks. I mean, there was no ifs, ands, or buts about what was going on here. Their website was used as a way to move women, to sell them for prostitution. We've been doing this stuff for years. In 5 years I've been here, hundreds and hundreds of arrests and hundreds and hundreds of cases where we've answered an ad and gone out to it. Of all these hundreds, we've never had one case where it was our mistake, where the woman's standing there in an evening gown ready to go out on a date with us to watch a movie. It never happened. It was never a legitimate massage. Everybody knew what was going on. We kept sending them letters telling them, you got to stop this. They had no interest in it because they were making so much money off of it. It was only after our lawsuit, the Craigslist killer in Boston, you may have heard of him. He was using Craigslist to set up dates, and then he killed 2 women. I think he attempted to kill a 3rd one. And then a Utah man at the same time put his wife up on Craigslist to have her raped by another man. Collectively, it forced, all of these things forced Craigslist to shut down. The unfortunate thing for us is what happened is all this activity then gravitated over to a different website called Backpage right now. And Backpage is as bad as Craigslist was at the beginning. It is absolutely brutal. You go to this website right now and there's no mystery what's going on. We've sent them a series of letters trying to get them to pull back from this. They're clearly in my crosshairs right now. They've hired a prominent law firm here in Chicago and a prominent PR firm as well to try to get me to back off, but I have a sneaking suspicion it's not going to work. But they are up to their ears in the exact same thing. And what people don't seem to get is we never have had, nor never will have, any burning passion to go out and just arrest prostitutes just for the sake of arresting them. It doesn't serve any real social purpose, to be honest with you. If it's destroying a corner, of a neighborhood, yeah, we'll intervene and take care of that. But we have been trying to work with turning a lot of these women around, getting them away from that. But more importantly, we want to get the big ones, the ones that are profiting from it, the people that are the pimps and the traffickers. The internet so thoroughly insulates them, it makes our job next to impossible. Before, there was always all sorts of street connections where you can get people and make the connection. Now, as I mentioned before, whether it's through depositing money and putting them on debit cards where there's not even the cash being traded, or the fact that more often than not, the pimps are the ones placing all the ads on there, it makes our life very, very difficult. We did something just to give you an idea of just how easy this whole thing is, and we did this last night. What we did is we decided to put an ad up on Backpage ourselves to give you an idea of how easy it is to put the ad up, but then how quickly, you know, things start occurring. We took an ad out that said, ready and able, new to the area, 18 years of age. And our first hit came in 3 minutes. And then within 5 minutes, we had 7 phone calls for dates that came in. We could have, if we'd stayed on, I'll be quite honest with you, if we'd stayed on, we would have, you know, had hundreds of them. So as you can see, we went on, placed an ad right up on there. That's what their page looks like. And then, as I said, within about a minute and a half, no, about 3 minutes, all of a sudden, you can see the elapsed time there. About 3 minutes, the first call came in, and then they all started rolling right in afterwards. Everyone knows what's going on here. There's no mystery. And we could have done this, as I said, all night, and it wouldn't have made any difference. As I said, there's no magic to this. This is what happens every single minute in every single community around the United States. Here we've been seeing a lot of it, and it's, as I say, it's growing. It's not getting smaller. So, as I say, it's a rather vivid example of how this stuff plays itself out. Some of the things that has hurt us in the past with the lawsuits is there's a absolutely insane federal law called the Communications Decency Act, which my strongest understanding was a well-intentioned act that was supposed to actually help prevent certain things from being on the internet in the public way. Instead, it's had the exact opposite effect. When we have sued, these companies have hid behind this statute saying that we can't intervene, and they have won, and they've effectively kept us out of some of these lawsuits, and that's why our lawsuit actually eventually got dismissed. It's one of those things we're going to push to have that law either amended or repealed, because, as they say, this is so outrageous. Like, can you imagine for 2 seconds if there was a building in the middle of a block where open and notoriously women were being trafficked, and we all had to say, well, there's nothing you can do because they have a special status? Of course not. So the fact that they're doing it on the internet as opposed to the building is insane. So we're going to attempt to see what we can do to work with changing that. But at the end of the day, there's certain things that you can do. There's a group called CASE. Some of the folks are out here right now, Chicago Alliance Against Sexual Exploitation. They've been very aggressively working on this with us. They're a group that can use any of the help you can give them. Their information's up there. Our Women's Justice Program, too. We do a lot of our work through grants and the like and donations, so we can always use more help as well. Our mandate here is not getting any stronger or smaller folks. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. This is just a horrible, horrible thing. I mean, these are truly, truly evil, evil people who are hurting very real people. I mean, these were one-time 3-year-old little girls with dreams of what they wanted to do with their life, and their dreams have now become these horrific nightmares, absolutely horrific nightmares. And I really feel that all of us have a moral obligation to get involved with this issue and to try to end this. It's not going to come quickly, it's not going to be easy, but collectively, the more we understand this, the more we're involved with this, we can bring this horrific embarrassment to an end. Thank you so much.
Sure. All right. Be careful how you ask your question. We have one question that doesn't pertain to the speech, so raise your hand. Miss Ginny will pass among you. Over there, Miss Ginny. Oh, there's Miss Catherine there. All right. Just give it to me. Oh, coming from you. All right. All right. All right. From Chris Long. Oh, your messenger. Good. What kind of larger educational efforts can be made to encompass the range between the head of IMF and to local boyfriends?
One more time.
Read it.
Okay. Chris, between the head of
IMF.
Okay.
In the press these days.
Yeah, I noticed. I mean, I think, we've tried some educational efforts ourselves. We've been out in the high schools and the rest of it, but what we're trying to do is get a much more thorough understanding of this issue by people. And the best way to do it, frankly, is forums like this and other ones to lay out the reality. I mean, there's none of this stuff. I mean, we've had to pull stuff back because some of it's so unsettling that honestly I didn't want to talk about it. So I really think people's eyes need to be open, the educational part, because I can't tell you how much of it, Chris, gets sort of lost in this discussion about international movement of women. It's happening in our own city, in our own neighborhoods. As I mentioned before, I have had young girls within blocks of my house who have been pulled in this thing. There's more of it than you know going on, and I'm not trying to say, oh God, please don't allow your kids to use the internet. No, but you have to be very, very mindful as parents about what your kids are doing, what they're involved with. I cannot emphasize enough how many of these things started off somewhat innocently, how many of them were other girlfriends who may have troubled past that were recruiting other girls, and some of these families we've dealt with, oh my God, I mean, they're blown away by some of the stuff going on. So I think the educational side and really trying to open people's eyes to what's going on is the only way that I know of to try to deal with this.
Well, when I wrote educational, I put quotes around it for a reason, and it seems to me it's got to be broader than just as helpful as your talk was. It has to be broader and deeper than what you can do all by yourself. What other ways what else can be done?
You know what, I mean, honestly, so much of this is driven by the media. If the media has the time, and they don't, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but they don't necessarily have the time to give the amount of attention to certain issues. If they can do this to bring the awareness level up, that would be a big help. And one thing I would tell you is, I say, we've had some of the cable programs wanting to do more on this issue with us, and so we're going to work with them to try to do that, because I'm somewhat out of ideas beyond that right now.
Well, Krylov
We got a lot of questions. A lot of questions. Give me a shorter answer.
Down girl.
Easy. Will the messenger?
I'll hold her back. I'll hold her back.
Thank you, Mr. Messenger.
I got her.
Okay, this is from some guy named Bill, a Gainer. Didn't recognize it. There's no ATT after it. Do the schools work with your office to stop this?
The schools have been really good, Bill. The problem with the schools, though, is that their days are so programmed right now with, math, science, the rest of it. Our biggest problem is not getting access. It's finding the time in the school day for us to go and do it. We've done quite a few of them. We've done a lot on the internet side of it. We have not been able to figure out a way to do it at the grammar schools yet on this topic because of the sensitivities part of it. But the high schools, we've worked our way into it, but it's been more trying to find the time. But it's a difficult topic to try to figure out how you can talk to some people about it. But we have been out there and we've been doing it. The schools have been very open. We just don't have enough time, not us, they don't have enough time to program this in.
This is from, I hope I can pronounce the last name, Patsy Benvenesti, Chicago Botanical Garden. Will the Sheriff's Office expand alternative sentencing programs for offenders? It saves money.
Yes. We have been doing that. We're going to continue to do it. We've got, just as, I know it interests you, our jail garden, we're tripling the size of that this year. We're also got a couple of neat proposals that we're ready to roll out as pilot proposals right now, which are green initiatives, which would green the place up, but at the same time, it will be teaching detainees some skills. Our inherent difficulty, though, is I've mentioned in prior times I was here, because the nature of jails, which is a temporary holding place for people waiting their trial, we never know when people are coming or going. Their case can be dismissed at any moment. And so as a result of that, trying to find a program that can fit somebody who might not complete it is tricky, but we're crossing through that. We've got another proposal with dogs where we're going to do a dog training, where we're going to train some dogs that have been thought to be not trainable. We're going to work with them, and in addition to, we have a deal we've worked out with the City of Chicago where our folks are going to start working in the animal control office to clean and groom dogs and things like that. So we're going in a million directions, and we're trying to, anybody has better ideas too, please let us know.
What is your opinion of the effectiveness of posting the names and photographs of Johns publicly?
It's been pretty effective, I think, but we do it in some respects. It just doesn't get as much play as you would think. We've been actually kicking around doing some of that internally in our office and making it like similar to the sex offender list, where you can go to our website and click and you can find names that are based by alphabetical and things like that. So we've done some of it. It's been somewhat effective for that individual, but I think it's like a lot of things in life. Folks don't believe it's ever going to happen to them, so they don't necessarily make that connection. We took these big billboards out on Mannheim Road where we've had a real problem over the years that lays out how much money, because once we arrest you for being a John, and we do a lot of those operations where we put some of our female officers out on the street, and then when they get stopped by someone, we then arrest the Johns. We take their cars and stuff like that too, and I think we charge them like $1,000 to get their car back. And we got a fish truck recently that was sort of neat. He was on his way to deliver fish to a restaurant, and we ended up with a truck with fish, and we didn't know what the hell to do with it. So that was a little bit of a problem. And we got a bus. We got a bus one time too. So it's like, be careful what you wish for. So it's been effective. I don't make it into something.
Okay, Gail Lay, longtime City Club member. What is the conviction rate and typical sentence for human trafficking? Do we need better laws?
The recent changes in the human trafficking laws have been really good, and we do now have appropriate penalties. It's only about a year into it now, though, and so about a year and a half ago, I would have said needs a lot of work. They have been appropriately changed now, where they're really strong. And as in many crimes, when we've done this a few times, we take them on a federal level, and on the federal level, my God, they launch them into outer space. It's fantastic. So whenever we can go federal, we try to do it because it's even better. But our state laws have gotten much better. The area where we need a lot of work on the state level is with the child exploitation type issues, where we'll go on the internet pretending to be a 12-year-old or 13-year-old girl, and we go on into a chat room, and usually within minutes we have somebody who wants to go on a date with us and that stuff. And then if we get them to, which we can frequently do, if we get them to go to meet us at a restaurant to set up sex, then we arrest them. The difficulty with that one, and it's really mind-boggling, if every time we take those cases to the federal level, every single case has ended up in some type of prison time, and on the state level, every single case has been probation. So that's an area there needs to be a lot of work done in that. And and on that note, just real quickly, if I can, two of the guys who have been just, as I say, amazing, Bill, Lean, Mike Anton, will you guys stand up right now? They do so much of this work.
Okay, Paul Darsick, where are you, Paul? Raise your hand. You broke the record too. You've asked 4 questions. No offense, but Passover is over. So it's a sort of a selective line there. We'll pick the top one, and this is the one I like. How much trafficking is internet-based versus street-based?
Our experience, Paul, has been that it's more and more, increasingly is all going internet-based. And as I mentioned earlier, it just provides so many more layers of insulation. And these people doing it, they're really sharp. They know it. And they're evil, vicious people. They're horrible, horrible people, and they're smart. And so none of this has been easy for us. We have a couple of cases going on right now that we've been working on for months. It takes a lot of time, and the more they're utilizing those more modern methods, the trickier the case is. So we've seen the vast majority of it's all going in that direction. There's an element of it where it's non-internet, but it's a small part of it.
3 or 4 more questions. Bruce Handler, mention about Wings Court and other specialty and therapeutic courts. Are there programs, bridges for female detainees in the Cook County Department of Corrections?
Yes, we have a lot of programs. Our Women's Justice, and we have some people here as well from that program. We are seen as the experts in the country. We have people come around to our place all the time to see how we do it. A lot of the programs, to be honest, we were started years ago by Mike Sheehan, and it's been just snowballing since then. And it is on the cutting edge. We try to treat these women as they should be, frankly, like victims. I've talked to a lot of them, folks, and it's beyond heartbreaking. To say that their life is a modern-day horror story is an understatement. Virtually every one of them has a combination of either sex abuse at a young age, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, domestic violence. It's usually all of them rolled into one. It's rare when you don't have any of this stuff. And we try to peel apart each one of those issues, but it's tricky at first because that's where by hiring the former prostitutes to work with us, it is an amazing thing you can see. I was in one night when our guys were out. It was actually sort of interesting to see because we had a woman that we had arrested in a room, questioning her. We arrested her for prostitution, and she wanted absolutely nothing to deal with us. And you can understand why. The penalties for prostitution are misdemeanors. I mean, they're just like in a parking ticket almost. And they know that. And so they know if they rat out the guy above, they're going to get beat, maybe killed, their child will get taken, all these other things. Or they can just, take a misdemeanor. So they understand that. So they usually don't say anything to us. So that we were getting that drill. We were getting nothing. And within seconds, then all of a sudden our guys left, and the woman, former prostitute, goes in the room, and you hear this noise, and they're both in there hugging each other and crying hysterically. And obviously, the good thing about that is that she's, we're breaking through a little bit. We can make a difference. But the other part of it was she's now all of a sudden willing to talk to us, and she's willing to give up the guy above, and she sees a light. She sees an ability to get out of this nightmare. So we've been really pushing those programs big time, and our whole mindset in this area is completely transformed. As I said, we are really directed at trying to fix a lot of these folks and trying to just change a lot of behavior.
This question is from Loyola. Is it Catherine, or where are you? I can't. Okay. All right. And it's written in pencil, which is, you're probably a new person here. We don't normally accept pencil. It's called legibility and the professor's eyesight. For cases that cross jurisdictions, how do you work with other law enforcement agencies, including the feds? What about forced labor cases? Does your program serve those victims?
Yeah, and the forced labor ones they don't get as much attention, but we do occasionally come across those. It's more on the prostitution side of it where we get, and the sex trade is where we get most of it. A lot of it is cross-jurisdiction. Because of the amount of attention we've put on this, we've become, frankly, somewhat of the experts. And so a lot of the other jurisdictions reach out to us, and we work with them on a lot of things. We work, is in any operation. There's some groups we work better with than others, but the one case that I was referencing that the guy got a life sentence out of, that was a case that we worked with the U.S. Attorney in Indiana on, who was just phenomenal because there was interactions both in Indiana and in Illinois. So we've done a lot across borders. As I say, these women are being moved everywhere. So we're doing a lot. We're working a lot with people from other jurisdictions, and we're learning a little bit more. They're learning a lot more for us because we got out in front of this really early and are becoming, we're the experts in it. We really are.
Two more. Change of pace. Joy Saxon. How will the Supreme Court decision requiring release of impact your office?
Its question is, how will the Supreme Court case that required California to release 20 or 30,000 inmates impact my office? Right now, it'll impact us nothing at all because I actually shut one building down a year ago, so I actually have one empty building. I've got another building that's half empty. Some of it's because we're using some alternative programs to keep people out of the jail. The other part is just what you've read in the papers. There's been some decreases in crime, and so we've been the beneficiary of those. But we will not be impacted by that right now. That's not to say that and frankly, the jail population is very cyclical. Every year it's the same. Usually right around June, July, frankly, when the kids get out of school is when there's a big uptick, and it starts decreasing around September, October. And then from October through, once again, May, June, our numbers are low. So we're fine right now. It can change any given moment, but we think we've built in enough fail-safe where we will never have that problem. We haven't had We were under a federal consent decree for 30-some years, the Duran consent decree, because of people sleeping on the floor. And we haven't had anybody on the floor in going on, I think, 4 years now, which is unheard of. And as I said, to the point now where I've shut buildings down. So I don't think that will have any impact. Things could always change quickly, but we feel as if we've thought this through and we've planned pretty well.
Okay. The last question is kind of a combo from Eileen Dorkin, Judith Turk, and Trevor Peterson. Basically, it asks, what can citizens do to confront and combat human trafficking? And the question being, what about the parents? Oh, and the kicker, are these girls sent to other states or countries?
There's actually no limit to where these people move women and young girls to, wherever they can get the most money. As I said, the guy we arrested up here who was prostituting his wife out, he was moving her all over the country, and while he was holding the child, threatening to kill the kid. So there's no real bounds. They'll go wherever they can get money as far as that goes. The parents, it's a mixed bag. A lot of these girls come from troubled backgrounds, as you can imagine. So there is that element of it. And then there's the other ones, as I said, anybody who's just naive enough to think, oh, well, this doesn't happen in my area, you're completely out of your mind. We can tell you it's happening in every neighborhood. And a lot of these girls, as I say, starts off horribly innocently, and they all want to be the next American Idol and the rest of it, and someone's talking about getting them on a video and the rest of it, and it just snowballs rather quickly. So some of the parents are not there. Other parents are good parents, and it's just, I don't know what to tell you, but it's all the more reason why you have to be very involved with your kids, very nosy what they're up to. And it really is, folks. I mean, my generation and above, you just didn't have these issues before. You really didn't. And with the internet, with instant messaging, all the rest of the stuff, your child could have a separate life going on that you don't even know about, and you've got to find out how to get involved with that, because there are some of the parents that we've dealt with that you would be shocked. They're normal, and they had a normal house. They didn't know any of this was going on.
How about a big round of applause?